Hello, this is vlog number 2. We are looking at week number 3, and this week we were asked to read chapter 13 of the Rhetorical Act and chapter 7 of Reading Pop Culture. So I'm going to start off with chapter 13 of the Rhetorical Act, which is titled Understanding the Medium of Transmission. Essentially, this chapter explores how media technologies influence our behavior and shape the way that we send and receive rhetorical acts. So the purpose of exploring this topic is so that we can become discerning citizens rather than blind consumers. To understand the medium of transmission, it takes the elements of descriptive analysis, like we previously mentioned in vlog number 1, the rhetorical problem, and evaluation, and asks questions such as, how does the media invite our assent? What are the promises and the perils of media as influencers of the digital era? How does the medium of communication affect the rhetorical message? Questions such as those are what we need to be asking when we are looking at advertising and medium of transmission. The theme of this chapter is that media is powerful because they pervade our culture, carry moral authority, and acquire special influence through the means of transmission. There are 7 fundamentals of media literacy, which is that all media messages are constructed, media messages use a language with its own rules, different people experience the same media messages differently, the media is primarily driven by a profit motive, the media has embedded values and point of views, and lastly, the media is persuasive and carries high moral authority. The next topic is that media has a high ethos appeal. So, for example, we usually like to bash the media, and we are very hesitant to admit that we are so dependent and reliable on the media, and we don't want to admit that. The truth is that the influence of media on our lives is undeniable. We are viewers, listeners, readers, surfers. These are all terms that heighten our roles as active sensory beings. And the target of mass-mediated messages capitalizes on this active sensory component. And we, as consumers, often become the victim. Media readers envision the receptors of their transmission as discriminating consumers, which is another word for active buyers, and those fit the certain economic demographics. So, in other words, they try to make us seem like we're in control by allowing us to call the shots. However, that is their tactic to deceive us into thinking that we are superior when in fact we are not. Another topic of this chapter is that the media creates paradoxes for us. Because the medium is such an important, taken for granted rhetorical dimension of the message, it invites our assent in seductive ways. So, for example, on page 305, as you can see, there's a chart right here of 4 different methods of transmission, and I'm going to read them as well as their strengths and their weaknesses. So first off, we have print media, such as newspaper. Their primary strengths are discursive authority, they're permanent, and they provide in-depth coverage. However, their weaknesses are that they are dated, it requires literacy, it costs consumers directly, and it takes time to digest. The next form of media is the radio. It provides intimate medium, reaches most segmented audiences, and declines in community engagement. Its weakness is that it is non-visual and that it has a coarse discourse. The next one is television. Its strength is that it has the largest audience and it has visual storytelling. The weaknesses is that it lacks depth and perspective, it is sensational, and it is not childproof. The next one and the last one is the internet, which is what our pop culture so easily depends on nowadays. Its strengths are convergence capabilities and it empowers users. Its weaknesses is that there are no gatekeepers and there's over dependency. As you know about these different types of media, it is important to talk a little bit about media campaigns and movements, because that is what the chapter concludes with. It says that political campaigns and social/political change movements are affected by the kinds of mass media coverage they receive and the social media platforms that they exploit. Essentially, the media shapes our culture in the way it influences our social and political behaviors. And it doesn't talk about this in the book, but we can see this in real life with the Black Lives Matter movement. If the killing of George Floyd was not covered by the media, if it was not so widespread on the news, through television, radio, internet, newspaper, all of that, then there would probably not be as much support for the Black Lives Matter movement, because that is the one event that really sparked it. So, in a way, what is covered by the media shapes our culture. If there was no coverage on the killing of George Floyd, there probably would not be as intense a rise in the Black Lives Matter movement, if that makes sense. Next, we are going to talk about Chapter 7 in Reading Pop Culture, which has a title, Immersive Media. It says, can we get lost and can we be found in media? So this chapter talks about the strong distrust of imaginative fictions and entertainments throughout the history of Western literature and culture. Essentially, our love for vicarious distraction contradicts the value we have towards authenticity and truth, and all the essays in this chapter address the values of fiction and this vicarious experience, as well as taking on the connecting parts where it connects to our pop culture. So to summarize the 6 essays that we have read, in Knox's On Novel Reading, he discusses the pop culture phenomenon of novels as a potential danger to young minds because it often pollutes their heart and teaches all the malignity of vice in solitude. Next, in Brenner's Teen Literature and Fan Culture, Brenner explores the popular trend of fan fictions and how they instill creativity, talent, and joy in stories. Next is Rose's The Art of Immersion, Fear of Fiction, which profiles 2 video game developers and examines the way the consumers feared the immersive power of fiction, since it seems that every new technological advancement increases the transporting power of narrative. Next, in Klosterman's My Zombie Myself, Why Modern Life Feels Rather Undead, Klosterman compares zombies to ourselves, saying that we are so reliant and addicted to the internet as a form of pop culture, we turn into zombies. We have no brain. Life becomes undead at that point. Next, in Burak's Escape from the Matrix, Burak analyzes the phenomenon of FOMO and how the social and cultural idea is influenced by the new digital era as social media became increasingly popular. And lastly, within Moore's Why Video Games Should Be Played with Friends, Not Online Strangers, Moore examines how technology influenced the trend of children engaging in online games with strangers, a form of non-immersion that does not promote social interaction. So overall, all of these essays just highlighted the chapter's main theme, that immersive media is very influenced through our culture, and we can see that through the novels and through the video games and through us being zombies. And I think that is all for this week. Thank you.